Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we're super happy to have you here. And if you've been listening and enjoying for a while, I would be super grateful if you would please take a moment to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the best and simplest ways to pay it forward and help others find the show so that they too can tap into the powerful perspectives and positive vibrations we are collectively emanating. The other unique and magical way to share this show is by sending any friends you think would benefit from listening to this podcast our Game with the Universe link at positivehead.com/game. Also listed in the show notes, which will serve them up a quote-unquote random episode when they click it. Just instruct them before clicking the link to close their eyes for a moment and sincerely ask the universe to cue up the episode that contains the insight and perspectives that they most need to hear at this point in their life journey, and then click to listen to whatever episode is synchronistically served up to them. I have heard time and time again from people about the incredible results they received playing the game. So just tell your friends magical results are guaranteed or their karma back. All right, all you positive heads, welcome to the show. So happy to be back with you guys. It is a terrific Tuesday here in the studio as I record, and actually took yesterday off, had Miss Erica, Middle Miss, helping to fill in and bring some lovely variety being the spice of life and all, to the show. And so, yeah, Erica, I appreciate you doing that. Hope you guys enjoyed yesterday's episode. And today, one of the reasons I didn't end up recording yesterday, and Erica helped out, is I had a really interesting long weekend with some fascinating magical stories that I thought, you know what, why don't I just make it story time today on the show? You guys know I love my stories and love to share them. And so, yeah, that's what I think we'll do today, is I'll share a little bit of a cool magical experience I had this weekend, and just sort of examine that and what the implications are and what I feel it means. And I think some of what I'm experiencing, I'm seeing even in the Facebook group, people are posting about like having Kundalini type awakening experiences. And that's something that I feel like has been happening for me as well. For, you know, really, I mean, as you guys know, who've been listening for a long time, I was in a band called Kundalini from 97 to 2004. And I don't really feel like I've ever had a Kundalini awakening per se in the way that a lot of people describe that experience. Although in the last week plus or so, I definitely feel energy moving, and that's what I kind of attribute it to. So, and then I've seen people posting in the Facebook group about the same topic. So I feel like there is a lot happening energetically right now. The train has left the station, and there's a lot of multidimensional energy on the move, and a lot of people are experiencing symptoms and so forth of these things. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. Before I do jump in to some of this juicy goodness, I would like to take a moment to read a review on iTunes. You guys know iTunes is, well, you've heard me say it if you've listened to the show before. It is the holy grail of all things podcasting. And when you leave reviews there, you help us to reach new people. So I really appreciate it when you guys give me that feedback as well, because it helps to fuel my fire when I hear, you know, that the show's making a difference in your lives. So also, that makes me think the show is now also on Spotify, so you can tune in there, and please go over there and subscribe, even if you're not listening to the show from there. And for now, it's just the interviews. The daily episodes are forthcoming on Spotify, but please subscribe over there as well. That would be super helpful. But yeah, on iTunes here, this one came in from Wow, iTunes is Gay is the person that wrote this review. And yeah, iTunes is a very happy place. I agree. And it starts off, thank you. I knew from day one, my first listen to listen to your videos, I would write a 5-star review eventually. And today I couldn't wait any longer. I'm re-listening to your March 26th podcast with tears in my eyes. Not from sadness, obviously, but from a deep knowing that goes beyond my physical form. I, like many, have learned and developed so much with the influence of the Positive Head team. Every time I pick a video, it's always what I need to hear. And I'll just interject here. So we, maybe 6 months ago, started turning the audio podcast into YouTube clips. So I'm assuming this person is connecting on YouTube. So anyway, I'll continue. All the synchronicities in this podcast today were too much for me not to share with you. It really rocked me to my core and was exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you so much for being so transparent and honest and opening my heart and minds to new depths. It's been an amazing journey and has truly changed my life. I've also found so many new spiritual teachers that have resonated with me exactly when I needed them. I'm one of many, but just wanted to put my 2 cents in there and let you know how deeply impactful this has been for me. Excited to see what life brings. Thank you so much. Sending love your way, B. Aw, thank you so much for that review. And for those of you who haven't done so, if you would be so kind as to review on iTunes if you feel inspired to do so, I would certainly appreciate it. And also, while I'm thinking of it, I mentioned the Spotify thing. You can start following the show there. Also, if you're not on the Facebook group, Positive Heads with an S, that is a wonderful place to connect with other listeners and, mix it up, ask questions. It's a private group. So if you want to get personal and ask things that you don't want the rest of Facebook land to necessarily see or hear, then it's a great place to do that. All right. So it's been an intense few days for me, for sure. I definitely feel like, it started out with, I've been spending time with someone who, basically, I'm going to try and make this part of it really short. A very long, dear friend that I love a lot, has a girlfriend, who I met a couple years ago, and we started spending time together. And it's interesting because what it brought up is he's sort of had feelings for this person as well. And it brought up a lot of working out what I feel like is like a lot of times with these things, the way I view them, they're like karmic energy. It's like we all have such deep historic soul family ties, the people that are especially in your life, day in and day out, right? Your immediate family and your closest, friends and family in life. I believe we all have so much history. So there's been a lot of like energy working itself out between, a good guy friend of mine, and now someone that is a romantic interest, and during that whole process, I feel like as I sort of like tapped into that vibration of love through this whole experience, it was like definitely like a Kundalini type awakening feeling, like having trouble like controlling the amount of energy that's flowing through. And that's the way I've heard it described with Kundalini is like, it's like you can't turn it off. It's like you turn on the stream of. For those of you who don't know, Kundalini is an ancient Sanskrit word. Supposedly, Kundalini is a dormant energy source at the base of your spine. And if you raise your Kundalini energy through, any type of awakening process, Kundalini yoga, for example, is the original, the father of all yogas is like, you do breath of fire and these breathing techniques to awaken and arouse your Kundalini. Some people have experiences of arousing their Kundalini when they're not ready for it, or, something triggers it and it can, kind of like goes up your spine to the top of your head. If you see the caduceus, I believe it's called the medical symbol, right? That's actually based off Kundalini. You've got the staff with the snakes going up it. And then at the top is wings, and that's like basically they call it the serpent energy, right? The energy going up the spine, and then at the top is enlightenment. But if someone is not really ready for it to be activated, it can be really an intense experience. Now, for me, I feel like I've done a lot of work on myself, and I actually had a 5-MeO DMT experience not too long ago. You guys are going to hear about on the show forthcoming. There's a whole episode about it, so I'm not gonna go into the details now, but that's supposedly one way that can trigger a Kundalini awakening. And that just happened to me a few weeks ago. And since then, I've definitely felt like a different energy in my body. And then with this kind of, romantic experience, if you will, unfolding, it definitely triggered it even more. And so it's just been a very intense few days. And the way I can best describe this kind of Kundalini awakening story, or what I perceive to be that potentially, is it's kind of like feeling the energy of everything at once that is physical life. Like if you imagined every animal, being that's ever been, all those emotions and energies being like activated in your body at one time. And it feels like almost like, I can see why they call it serpent energy. It makes you almost like I want to like sway from like this thing is like rippling through your body. And it's really been interesting. Not as overwhelming for me as some people's experience, but I definitely have felt like that's what's happening. So that in itself has been sort of a first in an intense experience. And interestingly enough, someone posted all about this in the Facebook group yesterday, having the same experience. I don't have that post in front of me, but if you guys go on, you can see it. And the person was explaining what was happening to them and how they couldn't sleep for days, and any advice on how to deal with it. And it's sort of the creative spiritual energy of the universe, and it's there and it's ready to be activated. And I think a lot of people are going to have these types of experiences. So it's intense to begin with. Then, my good dear friend and co-collaborator on the show, Chris Jackson, who you guys have been hearing, quite regularly as a co-host. He is an event producer, and he produced an event on Friday night, actually, called Abundance is his events. And this one was awesome. I mean, Spangel was headlining, and it was live painting by the visionary artist, Alex and Allison Gray. And, they're like, Alex is like the godfather of visionary art. And so it was a really intense, evening. Well, so I went out with this person that I'm kind of dating, and it just has started to unfold. And so her birth year is 1982. So I actually have this jacket, right? And if you guys go back to episode 2 of the podcast, you'll hear me tell the magic jacket story. So it's a jacket that says Peace Fest 1982 on the back. And so since we're going to this event, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll wear this jacket. It's got her birth year on it. And I just told her the story randomly like the week or so before. And so I decided to wear this jacket for the first time in a long time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you guys the story of this magic jacket that is now officially traveling as I intended many, many years ago. So here's the story of the magic jacket, and you guys can go hear it. Like I said, I shared this in episode 2. What are we? We're like at episode 670 or something now. So I shared this a long, long time ago. This happened in 2013, I believe it was. I went to an event called Manifest Festival. And it was a really small little festival way up in Northern California, maybe 500 people. It was tiny. And it was a very, very intense experience for me at this festival. So basically what happened is I'm one night at the festival, and I'm walking by. I just actually taken some sort of a psychedelic, mushrooms or something like that at the time. So I was in this altered state that was just coming on. And as I'm walking by, I see a group of people sitting in a circle. They're sitting around, and they have this like glowing stone that is they're putting on their forehead, and it's kind of like sticking on their forehead, and it's like looks like their forehead is glowing, right? And I'm like, what is that? Like, that is magical looking. Let me come over here and see. And, I'm in this kind of like awe state of what it is. And then they start showing it to me, and it's a stone called Yemingju. And what Yemingju is, it's a very rare stone that I guess only emperors and, this sort of thing in China have had in the past. And supposedly the story and what was told to me is the same way they can create diamonds and so forth artificially in the lab. Someone started doing that with the Yiming because they're very hard to find, like the originals, like they're almost non-existent. But someone figured out how to make them, artificially, and that's what this stone supposedly was. This magical stone that it absorbs sunlight and heat, and it will glow for hours on end. There's green ones, blue ones, and purple ones. So they're sitting there, and it was a green one, and they're like, it's glowing so bright, right? Because it's like sundown, and I'm like, so I want to see it and play with it. I'm thinking, instantly thinking of like Nikola Tesla, who talks about, crystals are living entities. Whether we understand the nature of their reality, they're living nonetheless. These are powerful tools. A lot of people have magical experiences tapping into crystals for all kinds of things, right? And here's one that's like glowing. Are you kidding? So I'm taking it, and I'm just getting into that kind of like psychedelic state anyway. So I'm extra like in awe. And so I take it, and I like put it on my forehead, and it's like sticking there, like literally this little stone about the size of like, maybe like the top part of my pinky finger. Like, if my pinky finger was in quarters, maybe it was like, maybe the size of a nickel, but not that wide, right? Skinnier. So anyway, so I'm putting this thing on my forehead, and we're all like kind of geeking out on it. And I decide to, I want to go show my friends. So my friends are over in a little dome hanging out nearby, maybe 100 yards away or something. So we get up and we walk over there, and I'm showing, and I like peek my head into the dome. I'm like, guys, look at this stone. Like, it's glowing, and it's like sticking on my forehead. Somehow it seems like it's like magically staying there. I don't know, I don't know how or why it was. It just was. It was, it's like anything. I think when you get into these excited states, you sort of, in festivals, you guys have heard me talk about this before, they're kind of containers for magic to happen anyway. And for, as you get a lot of people resonating in a high vibration, a lot of spiritual energy, all kinds of magic things can happen. And this is one of them for me, obviously. And so this particular story. And so this thing is just like sticking to my forehead. I show my friends, and I'm like, all excited, like a little kid with a new toy. And all of a sudden it falls off, and it just falls on the ground, like right next to my feet. And it wasn't, the ground was like, whatever. It should be easy to find. It's glowing, right? I should be able to find it in 2 seconds. So I go to look for it on the ground, and I'm like having trouble finding it. And then I like continue to look, and I'm having trouble finding it. And this is going back into 2013. So really, it's something that I can look back now and see that, I definitely dealt more with. I could get in really heightened energetic states. And then sometimes, like, especially if psychedelics or something, or some sort of plant medicine was involved, it was like, then kind of fearful thoughts can come in. And what my brain instantly goes to in this moment is thinking, okay, why am I losing this magical stone? Like, I can't find it. I'm kind of like panicking a little bit. It's like 15 minutes I'm looking for it, and it's like, how did it just disappear, like at my feet? Like, there's no way it could have gotten away. And meanwhile, this guy who, I didn't even own it, right? Someone else owned it. He'd bought it for his son, who was like 8 years old or something. He was going to take it home to him as a gift. And I'm like, oh, great. Now I've lost this magical stone. I'm getting in this sort of, psychedelic state anyway. Now I start thinking, well, what does this symbolically mean, right? You guys, that should come as no mystery that I'm always looking at like the hidden meaning, in whatever's transpiring. So I'm like, what does this mean? Why is this happening? Why did I lose this powerful stone? Like, it just magically disappeared, like, and then the guy's kind of like, oh man, he just spent like whatever it was. It wasn't cheap. It was like $100 and some or something for the stone. And now I've just like dropped it and it disappeared. So anyway, long story short, I end up searching for this stone all night almost. I mean, it becomes like a whole event. And then I'm like, okay, obviously I've lost, maybe not all night, but for several hours, right? And then we end up finding the guy who's there selling them. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do. My new friend who I lost it, I'm like, let me buy you a new one. And so I end up buying him a new one to give to his son. And I also end up getting one for myself, my girlfriend at the time that I was there with, and my son. And, I've been buying quite a few of them and bring home. And so my whole night ended up like revolving around like this stone and losing it and then replacing them. And, and I'm thinking, getting towards the end of the night, it's getting like, maybe 5:30 a.m. or something like that. I went all night, and that's how these festivals are. Music is going all night. People are celebrating and, doing their thing all night long. So it's getting close to the sunrise coming up. So I decide, okay, this has been quite the adventure. A lot of ups and downs with this night. I never found the stone. I was just dumbfounded how it got away from me. And so I ended up going back to my camp and decided I'm going to, go to bed now. So as I'm getting into bed, and well, actually it wasn't a bed. It was my friend Tyler had set up an inflatable blow up pool, like a kiddie pool, with lots of blankets and pillows. So me and my girlfriend at the time decided we're just going to sleep outside under the stars, right? And sleep in this. And so I'm climbing in, and the light is just starting to come through the trees. It's just starting to peak, and there's tons of trees over us. And as I'm laying there, all of a sudden I notice something like fly by, like really like quickly. And I'm like, whoa, what was that? And then all of a sudden another one, it's like a black streak. And I remember at the time, and I'd just been on this, once again, I'm in this state. I'm now, the mushrooms or whatever it is that I take, and I don't even remember exactly, 8 hours earlier, pretty much worn off. I'm pretty much back to, sobriety, if you will, in my normal consciousness. And so I'm like, okay, what is this? Like, I'm not seeing things, right? I'm pretty sober. Like, what in the world? And they just start increasing. They're just like flying quickly. And then I instantly think someone had mentioned something about fairies in the woods, because this is very wooded in Northern California. I'm like, oh man, maybe this is like, I instantly got the feeling like this is some kind of a non-physical thing that I'm seeing. And I don't claim, guys, to have ever seen any like spirits or non-physical anything. But in this moment, that's instantly the energy that I got. And I thought about that. And I have friends who talk about like interacting with fairy entities. And I haven't had those experiences, but there's a lot of people who I really like respect and that are amazing souls who claim to have those types of experiences. So I have no reason to doubt it. It hasn't happened to me, but maybe it has happened to me. At this moment, I was thinking, maybe that's what I'm seeing here. Like, that's what it felt like. And I'm like, wow, like, I wish they would slow down so I could really make out what I'm seeing more. It was very like magical seeming and feeling. So as I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and meditate. I'm going to try and communicate with them. Like, slow down. I want to see more. I want to be able to see more than the streakiness, right? And as I'm doing that, I instantly think back to hours earlier losing the stone, right? And as soon as I thought that, it was like a voice in my head was like, you're not ready to see more. And guys, literally right after that, there were so many streaking, not another single one streaked by. Done. It was, I thought about losing the stone. I thought about the symbology of that and losing my power and whatever I'd kind of tripped out on earlier with it. And then it's like, you're not ready to see more, and not another one flew by. Right. So I'm like, wow, okay, that was weird. Because if it's all in my head, whatever it was would have kept streaking or whatever. It like was perfectly synced up. So I ended up going to sleep. I wake up a few hours later, maybe 10 or 11 or whatever, and I just kind of stretching, in this little kiddie pool. My girlfriend Gabrielle is asleep next to me still. And, I look over and there's my jacket that I had been wearing the night before. Now, this is this is why it's the magic jacket. This story, at the time I'd had it for maybe 7 years or something. It was one of my favorite jackets, and it happened to be bundled up in such a way, sitting in this kiddie pool, where think about if you're wearing a jacket that opens down the middle, right? Buttons or zips, down at the very bottom right-hand corner of it, you could flip it inside out. And this is the way it had landed when I had taken it off the night before. So it was flipped. So this very bottom corner inside that would kind of bump up against my belt line, let's say, was exposed, and there was a little note sewn into this jacket. Now, I had had the jacket for like 7 years, so probably something like that at the time. So when I saw this, I'm like, hold on, what is this writing? Like, it's a note stitched into my coat. I've owned this thing for 7 years. I've never seen this. Like, and I go, as soon as I go, guys, to touch it, the stone pops out at me like someone just like threw it at me. The same stone. I'd romped about these festival grounds for, 10 hours, 12 hours the night before, hours of which I was looking for this stone. And it just like, ding, just like pops out at me as I touch this little note sewn onto my jacket. And the really trippy part is what the note said. It said, I'll read it to you right now. To whoever finds this, you have the following choices. 1, leave it where you found it for someone else to find it. 2, write a note with date and where you found it and drop it in the mailbox. 3, give it to someone else. 4, enjoy it and have a good day. Now, keep in mind, it's like, here's the thing I lost. Then it literally, when I touched the note, it like flew out at me. How it was attached to me the whole night. There was a little, it's hard to kind of describe. There is a place it could have like fallen into, this little cubby within the inner folds of the jacket. And maybe that's it. But I don't know how when I touched it, it flung out at me. It'd be much easier if I could show it to you guys physically, which I've done with other people before. I instantly was just like the energy that came over me. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is like a magic stone of some kind. Like, and it's tied in now to this jacket. And so I get this whole download of what I'm supposed to do with it. I'm going to adhere the stone to the jacket, because keep in mind, I replaced this. This was originally for this guy's kid, and I bought him a replacement the night before at probably 3 a.m. or whatever. So now I own this. I found it, right? And so I decided what I decided to do is sew it on, have it sewn on to the jacket, and to let the magic jacket, like the magic of that story and the energy that I felt was so incredible. Like, it was like I was playing a part in some epic, grand adventure with my higher self or the universe or whatever. And not only did I find that, when we were deflating the blow up pool, down in the very bottom of it, what was I sleeping on? A little plastic fairy was somehow underneath me in the kiddie pool. And so I had my girlfriend at the time, Gabrielle, she ended up later sewing the Yemingju stone onto this jacket. And this jacket already has like all this cool stuff on it, like an elephant, and like kind of like there's a lot of like cool things that are on it. It's a very like epic, rugged, badass jacket. And so it fit right in to put new things on it. Like, we put the Yemingju on it, and then I took it and we also sewed in this little fairy, because that was part of the story, right? And I decided I'm going to let this jacket, what comes to me through all this is I'm going to let this jacket travel and create magic. And I sewed like hidden on the inner seam. You'd have to like kind of look to find it. I decided to put magicjacket.net. And I'm going to tell this whole story on the site, right? And then anyone, as this jacket journeys and creates magic wherever it goes, people that find the URL, they can come, they can read my story, then they can include their own. What was your experience with it? What's happened to you? Well, how did it end up with you, right? And just let it take on this life of its own, because here's the thing, these stones, guys, like, they're a trip. Some crystals, like my friend is really into Moldavite, and he's had it. He's like, yeah, they'll like disappear and reappear, and they're really strange. And that's what happened with this thing. So here's an interesting piece of tie-in proof that I'm not completely crazy with this. The next morning, I went to buy some art from a art vendor there who was, painting, live painting during the festival. And I'm waiting to buy one of his pieces from him. And he's talking to someone else was in the line in front of me, right? And they're just having a conversation. I'm just politely waiting my turn. And he's saying to me, he goes, yeah, dude, have you seen those glowing stones that guy has here that he's brought? And he's like, I got one last night and I had the weirdest thing happen with it. Somehow I lost it. And I looked for it for a long time. And then next thing I know, it was attached to my body in some, like it all of a sudden reappeared on me. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Am I hearing this right now? It's like, what is this life? Like the guy literally had a similar type experience. He had no idea about mine. I'm waiting to buy art before I leave. And he's telling someone else, yeah, I got one of them. It somehow like disappeared on me. I searched for it and then it reappeared attached to me. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So what we end up doing is, putting the URL on it, putting the, hidden sort of somewhere on it. Would have to look for it to find it, right? Putting the stone, adhering the stone to it, adhering the fairy to it. And I took it that year to Burning Man and decided I was going to let it go. Keep in mind, I've had this is like my favorite jacket for a long time. So it's really cool. I really love it. And so there's that letting it go thing. That's, do I really want to let go? Am I just crazy? I don't want to let go of this jacket that I love. Right. And, so you deal with that energy as well. And so I end up, leaving it on an altar at Burning Man in the hopes that someone will pick it up or, it'll go out into the world. And then I would go and I'm going to document my whole story on magicjacket.net. And at some point someone will find the URL on it and then they'll come and share their story. And I'm co-creating the fact that it will be a really magical experience. And, we'll see where this thing, I had this vision of maybe, 1,000 years from now, it'll end up in my, my great grandson's hands in some magical way, And so anyway, I leave it on this altar at Burning Man years ago. This is going back 2013, right? And no one takes it and it's still there. And of course, Burning Man, people don't usually take things that aren't theirs. And do you really want it to be taken in that way? Anyway, I thought about it and I was like, okay, I'm going to just hang on to it until the time is right for it to journey. And that's been years and I've had it ever since and I haven't worn it really, I haven't worn it in a long time and I only wore it the other night because of, like I said, this new person that I'm seeing and, it's her birth year on the back. It says Peace Fest in, 1982. And so, basically, so I'm out at Abundance after an epic night there. It's like 4 a.m, everything's shutting down. We're walking by. We're going to go to an after hours get together, at a place called the Syrup Loft up in downtown LA, and basically we're about to leave and we're walking by, and I'm not exactly sure how it went down because I think somehow they said hi to each other or something. My friend Amy, who's with me, and just some stranger, some guy. And he instantly was like transfixed on the jacket. He's like, yeah, that jacket though. Like instantly that was like his focus. And she was like, whoa, hold on. I had just told her, and I hadn't told this story in so many years. And for some reason I had just told her this story when we were hanging out. And so she knew all about it, she's like, oh my gosh, like, it's so funny that you're like geeking out on the jacket. That's like kind of a magic jacket. And then, you need to tell him the story, Brandon, which I still haven't. But so long story short, like he was just like, and his energy was like so intense and interesting. And, we ended up inviting him to come to the after hours, which he did. And so we really connected there. And it was like, guys, it was like an experience that, I've had a lot of like pretty fascinating magical things, but it was like, I don't even know how to communicate everything that I was experiencing because it's so firsthand experiential, but it was like he knew without knowing everything about the jacket. Like he was like, it turned into him like kind of over the course of the several hours that we were at this after hours thing, and we talked some here and there. He's like, it's time to give it up. It's time. It's like, it was like something out of a movie. And then sometime he'd be over like writing in the corner, like journaling. And then it was like, in his energy, he like could barely contain his energy about it. He was like in awe of it. He's like, that's a future relic is one of the things he said at one point that's a relic. That's a relic. Like and it's like, and instantly, of course, my brain is playing out all these scenarios. Who is this person? His energy was so, even my friend Amy was like, wow, he's like the perfect human. Everything he said said was like so, just his energy was so unique. And I'm like, okay, who is this? Like, my mind's going, is this like a time traveler? Is this like who's come back to get some relic? He's playing some game. I'm like, is this a walk-in, like a spirit walk-in has walked into this person's body, or someone who has just set an intention to find some magical item, and now here they've manifested it in their life in the form of, because he just knew he would like communicate. He's like, with me in a way that it's for the first time I felt like I was having even telepathic communication. And it was just, like I said, it's hard to put into words something that's so experiential, but it turned into this whole over, the course of the evening. Then the evening started winding down, and my friends were trying to get me to go one place, and then the alternative was to continue communicating with him. And I took that road, that path, and there's just, you get into these states where everything is multidimensional meaning. It's like things are being communicated on all kinds of levels, and it's very similar to a state. And a lot of times, like I said, festivals create this type of container a lot of time. And it was definitely one of those similar types of experiences, although this was in, downtown LA at this after hours thing. And there's just an energy, and even his energy, it was like so intense. And then I finally decided, and I'm playing out, do I want to give this person, am I ready to let it go now? I hadn't had any intention of someone coming up to me and freaking out about it like in this way. I'd almost kind of forgotten about even the URL magicjacket.net. I was like, oh shit, I had never even set that up. I hope it's still there, and I rebought it yesterday, so I can now go and relay this story. So because now it's out, I ended up taking it off to give it to him, and it was like, talk about Kundalini awakening. His energy is just like vibrating. He's just like like he's getting like about to be handed something like that is going to change and shift. His whole reality is going to melt. It was wild. It was like really, really wild. And so then I go to like ask him to let's take a picture with it. You wear it and put it. He's like, dude, I don't know if I can put it on right now. Like the energy, I don't know. Like he's like, definitely someone having a Kundalini awakening type experience. He's definitely tapping into something. My son's been talking lately about this idea of an Ubermensch, which is like the next level human, I guess. I hadn't really heard this word until recently, but so yeah, I guess it's like the next version human, and that's what he felt like. And in those moments, in that moment, I'm like, I'm really looking forward to spending more time with him and connecting. And we've texted a little bit after I said something about Kundalini awakening, and then he sent a picture of his snakes. And we had some really interesting dialogue. He was in an energetic state that I've hardly ever seen. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone in. And the way it was like, even for me, for days afterwards, like this energy is just like coursing through my body. And so I just had such a distinct feeling of like, this thing is going to become like this classic relic from our time. That's what I felt in that moment. It's going to like be looked back on as something that like, captures this place in time space for humanity as we, ascend and wake up to our multidimensional selves. And he knew this in some way. And I don't know how. Like I said, I look forward to communicating with him and understanding more about who he is and what his story is. His name is Anthony, and that's, I know very little as of now, but definitely going to make that happen. And yeah, it was just so that's my Magic Jacket story. You guys can hear it. You can go back, like I said, to episode 2 and hear. I talked about it way back then. I'm pretty sure I talked about it in that episode. I shared a lot of my, magical, synchronistical stories, and it has now, the Magic Jacket has left the building. It is off into the world. And I really had kind of forgotten about it. I kind of putting it on a shelf, and it's kind of like, one of those things. Oh, well, maybe I just said to myself after that Burning Man in 2013, it didn't feel right for it to leave. It didn't leave. And I'm like, well, when the time is right, it'll happen. And it happened very organically here. The only reason I wore it because I was going out with someone who I just randomly thought of the story, and I shared it with her a week earlier, and then I'm like, oh, I'll wear it. It has her birth year on it. I haven't worn this in years, and someone comes up who's just like, out of a storybook. Like, this person was just the energy was incredible. And even like when I asked him to put it on, he's like, dude, he looked at me and he's like so serious. He's like, I don't know what'll happen. I don't know. I feel like I'll blast off through the roof if I put this on right now. I don't think I can contain the energy right now. He's like, he didn't want it. And then at one point I was like, let's take a picture together. He goes, I shouldn't take a picture with it. Like, it's like, it was almost like, what are you doing? What do you know that I don't? You know, that's the sense that I got. Now, here's the part of it that I want to touch on too, is this whole multidimensional meaning. Let's say I connect with him now, right? Next week when we go and I meet up, and he's just a normal average guy who maybe, obviously he's into a lot of like, let me take that back. I don't think there's anything normal or average about him, but most likely he's not a time traveler or a spirit walk-in, or, you know, maybe someone who set an intention to attract some, you know, magical item or something like that and did a ritual to do something like that. But it doesn't discount the meaning that I was having on me at that moment. It's like there's so many. What I'm learning is like, as I actually want to do like a short video clip at some point on this, like explaining what does multidimensional mean, right? In general, it's like, well, when you tie it in, the idea of multidimensional meaning is like these words or things that are happening that are, you're learning how to interpret them on many levels. There's like it's like layers of an onion. And in that moment, everything that he was saying, everything that I was feeling. I mean, remember at one point he walked up to me and goes, I can feel everything you feel. He's like, your heart is so expanded and overflowing. It's like I can hardly contain like tapping into your energy or something to that effect, right? He was just vibrating at such a high frequency and vibration. And I was just like, I didn't know who or what I was dealing with at that time. And it's wonderful because now I know. It's like, it helped this to sink in more for me. It's like even if he's he's at his day job right now, he's not anything, he didn't descend from the ethers and he's going to disappear. It's like the meaning was still there. The message was still there. The multidimensional, it's like we're sort of, I'm having these moments of times where things just seem, it's like you've stepped into a portal and normal life isn't there anymore. It's like and then you come back out of it. This has happened to me over years. Like I said, a lot of times in these transformational festival environments, because there's such containers for it. But what's happening? I think a lot of you guys will start having these types of moments where all of a sudden everything seems like it's out of a movie, and you're not quite in the normal world anymore. And then it phase shifts back in, and everything that's being said has meanings on all kinds of different levels for you. It's like you're interpreting it way beyond just the surface level words, right? The shallow sort of meaning of it all. And that definitely was what was happening here. And then you sort of phase shift back into normal, right? It's like, I think this is part of the ascension process. Is one of the reasons I wanted to share this whole story. Well, for one, it's a fun story, right? But also this whole idea of multidimensional meaning. You're going to start noticing things that are being said around you by your grandma, that she says something, but it speaks to what you're talking about on a much deeper level. She was talking about like taking the rice out of the cooker or whatever, but it meant something different because of how perfectly it tied in. And I was thinking about this the next morning and still in this kind of like very buzzy state for almost 36 hours. I could barely like sit still. There's so much energy coursing through me. Definitely like snake-like feeling, powerful energy. And that's what seems like he was experiencing as well. The now magic jacket holder, and the first recipient, if you will, of many, I feel. But, that very next morning, getting breakfast or coffee or something, I'm talking to my friend Amy, and she works with the guy who plays the Hulk, in some capacity, Mark Ruffalo on the Avengers. And I'm like, oh, how funny, like that was my favorite superhero as a kid. And I get thinking, well, what is the implications of that? Why was I so obsessed? My 5th birthday, it was a Hulk cake. And I remember my kindergarten teacher calling me out for walking around like I was the Hulk on the playground. Oh, and this jacket's very green too, by the way. But so I'm thinking of this like this is just a random side note, by the way, and synchronicity story. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, oh, well, we're turning into superheroes. What happened last night, a few hours ago? That was like a superhero kind of experience. I thought this person literally looked like they were scared. He said, I'm afraid I'll blast off if I put this thing on right now. And his energy was so intense. He was not like kidding around. He was like, his energy was like, he believed it when he said it. And so I'm thinking, wow, we're really turning into superhero. Like we're transforming, we're ascending, like, you know, and talking about her, you know, job and working with this actor who plays the Hulk. I'm like, oh, it's funny that we're spending time together now, because that was my favorite superhero as a little boy. And I was just obsessed with him. And literally, and what does that mean? What is the symbology? What's the multidimensional meaning of me dating someone who works with the Hulk now, right? And what do you know? 60 seconds later, or maybe a little more, maybe a few minutes later, we're walking, and a guy walks by with a huge Hulk on his shirt, and it says, "I'm kind of a big deal," you know? And I'm like, gosh, I mean, what are the chances of that? I don't really have any of you guys seen a Hulk shirt with "I'm kind of a big deal" on it? It's just, everything is alive and communicating with you and reacting with you and wants to play with you in this very fun, magical way. And the more excitement you give to it, the more you dabble, the more it unfolds. And my story continues to unfold. And my story is your story. You know, you all can like create your own ways to play with the universe and create your own future relics that will, you know, be remembered and you know, in this case, I really want to document what happened. So you'll see, I'll let you guys know when I actually set up the site. I'll probably put pictures of the jacket and tell the whole story just as I've done here now. Maybe even put this audio. I don't know. But that way, as it makes its way around, as the Yaming Zhu that's on it decides where and who it should go to next. But I had no intention of this thing. I'd kind of forgotten about it, honestly. I was like, oh, you know, it's in my, it's mine for now. Maybe one day it will really. Like I said, I hadn't even renewed the URL because I just kind of, you know, I lost focus and attention on it. It was just another one of my weird moments, right? And now it's alive and well, and it chose when it was time for it to come back alive, and it came back and like with a bang. It was dramatic fashion. This person just, I mean, it's not that crazy flashy if you see it. It looks kind of dingy and old and, you know, like an army jacket kind of thing. For this person just to instantly transfix on it and then just start, you know, he was just like became obsessed with it the rest of the evening. Like, you know, it's time. It was like it was symbolically me passing it off was like, it's like, okay, time for the magic to fully open into your life. And you're willing to let go of something that's actually precious to you and you really love, right? And give it away and let the abundance flow. And, you know, and then it symbolically meant to him all this power. Like he felt, it was very obvious. He felt and knew he had like a powerful relic in his hands now, and it had come to him. And the backstory leading up to that, I can't wait to learn from him. And as I do, I'll share with you guys. Who knows? Maybe I'll bring him on the show, actually. That would be cool. And we can hear from him firsthand what his journey is, his story is, because his energy was ubermensch. It was like, you're a next level human, and I'm not even sure you're that. What the hell are you? Like, this is crazy. So, all right, guys, this ended up being kind of a long one today because my story is kind of a long one. But I do have a song to leave you guys with, and I hope you've enjoyed my weird, magical story time, mysterious story time. Who knows? Maybe the magic jacket will end up in one of your hands, right? In some random weird way one day. One of you will call it in. Who knows? Maybe you'll call in Anthony wearing it at some point, and you'll be like, that looks familiar. Like, it says Peace Fest 1982 on the back. Like, is that the magic jacket? All right. I have a song to leave you guys with. This is from a lovely couple I just met actually that same night. Earlier in the night, I'd seen them at Lucidity Festival. They're a duo called Heartworks, and they have a new track that they just sent over, and I thought it would be a lovely, lovely song to share as the rising dawn continues to rise and the next greatest and grandest version of humanity is unfolding. This seems like a perfectly timed song called Rising Dawn by Heartworks, and that's spelled WURKZ for any of you who want to find them afterwards. All one word, Heartworks. This is Rising Dawn. Until next time, journey well. Love you all so, so, so much.
dream to the waking world. Rising from sleep, we'll see unfurled. Can I connect my fire beam? Dawn has awakened, full of feeling. The old habits and reactions, the challenges, distractions, with eyes wide open. The phoenix is arising, so simple, not surprising. Our love has spoken. I'm waking up. I'm waking up with the rising dawn. I'm waking up. I'm waking up with the rising dawn. With the rising dawn. With the rising dawn. With the rising dawn. Some vibe with fear and some with hate. I choose willingly to activate my flow.